Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajube and at DesignChat. Every week we get together, or sometimes every other week, we get together and we hang out with some of the coolest people from the design and creative community. Tonight, we are talking to the man, IshootRockstars on Twitter, the Kyle LaMere. Let me know if I'm saying that right. I probably screwed it up. LaMere.
Good. That's right? Good. That's good. You're the first person that's pronounced that right.
I did it right?
Better than I can.
Score.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We are having a little bit of a lag issue tonight, so I apologize for that ahead of time. So if you haven't been here before, here's how it breaks down. We do a little interview for a little while, and then we start opening it up. You guys can ask questions. You just click on the submit a question button on the right, and you can either type in your question, or if you've got a webcam, you can actually get on camera and talk to us. So please take advantage of that. One thing you guys should know is that we are giving away another prize tonight. Kyle, if you hold it up. For the best question, they are going to get mailed this envelope with, what did you say, 3 by 5s?
5x7 prints of some of my
5 by
photos,
7s.
and they come in some 5x7s, and they come in the awesome gaudy lime green mystery envelope.
Bang bang, nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So the best question tonight gets that whole envelope full of prints. Please ask good questions. Another announcement really quick. Next week we're going to be talking to Von Glitchka. Same time, same bat channel, so get ready for that. And that's it, really. We can kick it off. So, cool, man.
Yes.
For someone who is completely not familiar with you, Kyle, tell us a story about IshootRockstars, how you got that name, and what you do.
Okay. Well, yes, I am IshootRockstars. I am a former graphic designer, trained graphic designer turned photographer. I got into photography kind of almost about 5 years ago now, and it was mainly I just wanted to shoot for myself and shoot for friends' bands and things like that, and I kind of one thing led into another, and I just started shooting a little bit more and getting asked to shoot a little bit more, and I started to fall in love with photography more that way. And how I got the name, I got the name probably like early 2007, I think it was. I was walking around Millennium Park with my camera and deciding that I wanted to like kind of start doing this music photography thing, and it's like, well, what do I like to shoot? I like to shoot people, I like to shoot bands, I like to shoot rock stars. And I was like, wait, I shoot rock stars. Like, it has kind of a nice little ring to it. So at that point, I ran back to the place I was working at the time after my lunch break, and it kind of all determined, well, if the URL's open, it's a great name and it works. If the URL's closed, then, well, kind of start from scratch and come up with a better name. And lo and behold, it was open, and kind of snatched up every URL I could find, and that's kind of the history from how the name got started. But it didn't really take into fruition until about a year later, after I met my makeup artist and partner, Elizabeth Niche, and met her at a joint photographers shoot at a bed and breakfast, and we just kind of like hit it off. And this is Elizabeth right there. She's the one in the middle and the black hair. Elizabeth. That's how I met her. Yes. This was the first shot that we did together. And then we just kind of had this chemistry, and from there I kind of had a vision of what I wanted to be. And for the last 3 years now, we've been working together closely, and on pretty much the majority of shoots that we do together within music and fashion. And that's where we are today.
We had a comment in the chat room already. Can you please shoot Bieber? No, really shoot him, like with a gun?
I wish. Bang bang. That's our tagline.
Bang bang. Nice. Talk a little bit about your discovery of the creative world and how you've forged your way into design, and what was that experience like for you in relation to what you're doing now?
Yeah, it was the end of my freshman year of high school, and a buddy came over of mine and loaded Photoshop 3.0 on my computer, and ever since, and when I learned how to do the plastic filter and the twirl and the awful gradients, I called myself a graphic designer the next day. Went to
Right.
Barnes and Noble every single day, bought every Photoshop book I could find, and spent the rest of my high school career just living in Photoshop and realized, okay, I want to do graphic design. I love visuals, and so I went kind of down that path, and which led me into going to school and went to college for it, and then went out and got my 9 to 5, and you know that's kind of history now. So, but yeah.
It's amazing to me how much of the early stages we hear from people today, how much of that always involved Photoshop and how much a part of the creative culture it's become. Did you find that
hmm
it sort of, where am I going with this? If your life existed without Photoshop, do you think you would have been as heavily involved in the arts as you are today?
That's a good question. I honestly I don't know because it's just kind of it happened. I think maybe I don't know if I would have found what I like to do now. I look back at my design career and granted it wasn't for me. I just didn't have the passion for it. But everything that I did, learning design and being involved with it and working in it and getting a job within it, it all led me to this point, where I thought about that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. Well, like, well, what if I picked up photography when I was 12 or like 16, or whatever? Would it be different now? And it's different for everyone else. Everyone kind of finds what they really love at some point in their life, and it just kind of happened to flow that way for me. And yeah, that's kind of been the way it's been for me.
So, so you said you got involved about 5 years ago, and at that point in the sort of
hmm
professional photographer world, it very much had made a concrete transition to digital. Do you find at times,
hmm
or have you spent any time studying film or getting back to the purist part of it, or looking at? Does that interest you at all, based on where you started in it?
Well, yeah, it's something that like I'll be the first to admit that I don't do enough film as I used to or I should. It's to me. I mean, we live in a day and age where when we get clients, and especially in the photographer, it's digital, digital, digital. And it's fast and it's now. And to me, film, although I do practice it, kind of like on a smaller scale. It's mostly just for hobby and as a fine art thing for me. I know it's kind of like I know when digital photography first came out, the film people are like, oh, screw digital photography. It'll never be the norm and things like that. And they were right at the time. Back in 1998 when I bought my 1.4 megapixel Kodak DC-240 for $900. There's no way that was going to replace any Canon
Yeah,
camera, film camera at the time, 35 millimeter. But
yeah.
it was it, but it it's just life changes, technology changes, and it's like it's the way it is now. But for me, it's like I do like to get back to it. I do like to get my grandpa, before he passed away, he gave me all his film cameras, and he was a big shooter. Like he shot all of our family and slideshows and all that stuff. So I got into that and into more of the art side with it, with negatives and experimenting with negatives and destroying them and running experiments and scanning them in and just kind of getting like real hands on with it. And that's what I like to use film for personally, is like when I want to take it back and just kind of get like film to me needs to be dirty. The dirtier for me, the better. The nastier the image looks, the prettier the image looks. And digital is like, yeah, you can do great things with your editing style and stuff, and it works great for on the client level and in the day and age that we live in. But yeah, there's film is like vinyl to the music industry. It'll never die, and it should never die.
Right, right, right. So you mentioned your grandfather was into photography on some level. Did you have a lot of support from your surrounding family at a young age for sort of a creative environment? What was that like?
Yeah, no, no. My parents they're awesome. We have we have one of the best relationships, and they always just kind of raised me. You know, they gave me my guidelines on life, but they were just kind of like, think how you want to think and do what you want to do. You know, as long as it makes you happy. You know, they were never had a vision to fill like a destiny. My dad was a Marine, and you know, he never pressured me to go into the military or anything like that to follow his legacy. He was like, if that's what you want to do, do it. If not, you know, don't do it. So they've always kind of let me think freely and always been 110% supportive of anything that I wanted to do, as long as I was, you know, as long as within the means and I was passionate about it.
People who are just joining us, the best question tonight wins a prize, wins a handful of 5x7 prints from Kyle. So please, please, please ask good questions. Best one wins. Again, we're with Kyle LaMere, IshootRockstars.com. Bang Bang, love it. The Bang Bang mystery envelope, that's so cool. So let's talk a little bit about the sort of the culture now, like the visual culture that you're really living in and thriving in right now. Where do your projects come from? I mean, because the content of the images that you're creating right now, it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely of right now. It says a lot about the time we're living in. Talk a little bit about the relationships that you've established over the last 5 years and sort of where those have led you.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing with photography is, and people ask me a lot of times too, is when they ask, why'd you get into photography? Is it because of the love of photography? Is it, you know, is it something that got you into it? And for the most part, it's honestly like photography, let me communicate with people. And I'm a huge people person. I have an addiction to meeting new people, and I love meeting motivated and inspiring people. And I get, all of my motivation and inspiration from other people's passions. And what that's done for me is it just allowed me to be able to talk to people who I couldn't talk with before, and be able to work with people that I wasn't able to work with before when I was in a design profession. I finally found like a voice for myself where it was like, I can create something and let it be what I want it to be. I want to make myself happy first, and always make sure that I'm challenging myself. And it's interesting that you say that, because I think about that a lot. It's like, am I going to look at my photos in 10 years and be like, oh my God, those are so dated, or they look so crappy, It's kind of like when you look back at old design work, you're like, oh my God, why did I make that? Right. Or why did I shoot that,
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of do live in the now, at the same time, because you don't know, some things may age like fine wine and look great, in 10 years, and some things you're just going to kind of delete it and act like you never shot it, But...
Well, you bring up a great point about, the idea of a professional creative living today who a lot of people are making the choice of, do I want to work for somebody else, or do I want to work for myself and create my own images? And you went from an environment, like you mentioned, your 9 to 5. I would imagine you worked at some sort of agency environment where you had clients, you had to serve their purposes, which is a very different mindset than what you're doing now. What are the biggest differences for you, the pros and cons between those two environments?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that is different, because it's people are the first part is people are hiring you for your vision. They're hiring for you, like, here's your portfolio. This is what I do. This is what I offer. And these are the different type of images I create, and that's like kind of the first out the gate runner is why they hire you. Like, I like what you do. I like what you're making. The cons too, some of the things that are still kind of like the same as when you worked at 9 to 5 is you still have to adhere to what the client wants and needs and type of image that they want, So at the same time, while they're hiring you for your vision and for your style and whatever they want out of you, you're still, you have to please them. You have to please yourself, but most importantly, the person that's hiring you, got to make sure they're happy when they walk away. So I think there's this element. I think it's kind of like, it kind of goes both ways, as far as the good and the bad. I mean, the good part of having a 9 to 5 is you have a paycheck to look forward to every other week. The bad part about not having 9 to 5 freelancing is calling that client up and be like, hey, have you mailed that invoice out to me yet, or rent's coming up, so I kind of need that.
So how does on that note, how does the sort of professional end of this work out for you? You say you've got a partner who works primarily in makeup. What's the balance for you of like who does the invoicing, who does the calls to the client, who wraps up everything and and make sure all the loose ends are tied?
It's just me right now. Um, yeah, I do all the networking I can, meet as many people as I can, email out potential clients that I want to
Mm-hmm.
work with to share my stuff with, meet with the clients, produce shoots, prepare the shoots, get everyone organized. And that's the most fun part about a photo shoot is like the whole madness of trying to organize so many different like little elements and getting them all in the one place to meet at one specific time to get one specific image, and that's the biggest challenge of it. And like once you shoot, it's like, and once I get into shooting, it's like everything kind of disappears in life. It's like I'm not thinking about the
Mm-hmm.
bills I
Mm-hmm.
have to pay. I'm not thinking about my personal relationships. I'm thinking about only at that time, I need to get the best image I can possibly get right now. And that's the most freeing thing is once you kind of get into the actual shoot, is like everything just fades away. You don't think about anything. And that's kind of like where I get a lot of the energy from when it comes to that.
So where do you end up shooting mostly? Are you finding space in studios? Are you going on location? Are you traveling? Are you going to Hawaii in exotic locations and that sort of deal? Like, where do you shoot
not,
most?
not, not yet. But if anyone wants to start paying me to do some travel photography, I'm definitely available for hire. Um, but I do like I have a studio. I have a I have a studio out here in Pilsen that I work out of a lot. But I mostly in the last kind of year, it's been on location. Most of the places I go, it's either picked out or I set up somewhere or we set up somewhere else, and or but the most is, a lot of times too is like we'll shoot here. I mean, we can do studio shoots here. We can build little sets here and all that stuff. If
Mm-hmm.
that is what needs to happen, but it's kind of all over. But I haven't hit that trying to work on that clientele that's going to start sending me outside of Chicago. So if you know anyone, let me know.
Yeah, we definitely. We'll network together and get that figured out because then maybe they'll buy a
Right.
second ticket for me. For
Right.
me.
Exactly.
So how does that work out for like scanning locations and figuring out what's the best area, what's the best backdrop, what's the best environment? How do you evaluate that?
hmm
What's your process?
First of all, it really starts is when I meet with a client. It's when I meet with clients, I don't really have them as meetings. It's like just come over to my place and hang out with me, and like or let's do something that is
So
very
you're not putting on a
non-business like in
tie
a
and
way. Of
loafers and sitting at
no,
a table
no.
across with coffee, and you're not doing that kind of deal.
No, 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 no. It's something like that because the core I think with photography is it's not so much as like I'm gonna create this image that's gonna blow everyone away. I mean, there's so many amazing images out there that it's almost become about what's the message and connecting to that person is what makes the most
Mm-hmm.
you get the best photos out of. If I can't connect with a client or a subject that I'm working with, you're gonna totally see that in the photo. And so for me, photography has become all about relationships. It's been all about really having not just you're going to pay me. Great, you're going to pay me for a gig. That's fantastic. You're going to keep a roof over my head, but
Mm-hmm.
we have to establish a connection. We have to find a common ground. I have to understand you, so I can visualize what
Right,
you're trying
right.
to visualize in your head, and then and get something out of it that either we're both happy with or we never or something that we never even expected, which happens a lot of times too. It's like, oh, didn't expect that image, but great, it worked.
Now, do you ever have to collaborate? You find yourself in a collaborative environment with like an agency or small boutique group, or even with a
hmm
creative client, and then have to have discourse with a graphic designer? And what's that type of relationship for you? Do you feel that like the lines of communication are better because you understand more about their process?
Yeah, it's yeah for the most part, I think I'm a pretty good compromiser and collaborator with people. I really try to understand what the client is wanting, whether I'm working with an agency or design firm. I think you run low risk of running into issues or problems if you are actually really honest and open about what's going on and what that person wants, and try, instead of trying to fill my personal style or photography void, you know, at the same time you really have to kind of create a different image or something that that client actually wants. So at the same time you have to push yourself into, you know, into what they want as well. So it kind of like, I really keep an open mind about everything, and try to like, I detach myself, you know, emotionally sometimes, you know, when I'm working with certain clients and things, what they want. But at the same time, if I completely disagree, I need to have a reason for it, and I need to show them why, I may disagree with their idea and say this, well, if we go this route, it would be better, you know, but I'm not just going to go in there and be like, oh, you know, just trust me and let me run with it, you know, or else then you miscommunicate, and then next thing you know, you get a client that wants to take you to court. Although that's never happened, I'll note that.
I was just going to ask. So what's the worst image that you've ever created professionally? Like, what's the, like, looking back on it, the thing you're most disappointed about, like the project that like just nothing went right, and what was there a way to fix it, or how did you feel about it afterwards, or thoughts that you had that you'll never do that same thing again in the future?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think about so many things like that. I think about that a lot, especially when I look at older work. I always think about, you know, I'm my worst critic. I beat myself up left and right, like over an image, and say, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? How was my lighting? How was my composition? How was my editing? What can I change next time? I specifically. One that comes to mind, I think, for me personally, like I was kind of happy with how it turned out, but it was such a rush. We had a shoot at our studio last summer with the band Best Coast. They came in here, and we had like 12 kittens from the Humane Society come in here, and it was just like craziness all over the studio. We were setting up the set within like 24 hours and everything, and it was just like, and it came down to it, and the band had like, you know, we started off with having, okay, you get 2 hours in the studio with the band, so it was more of a relaxed, we could shoot around for a while, and then it came down to, you know, by the time of their set that they're playing at Pitchfork and everything, it came down to like, okay, now you have 20 minutes to get the band dressed, pose with these kittens and all this stuff, and take a shot, and I kind of like, after that day, I felt really low after that day, because I was like, I wanted it to be so much more. I am like, when I look at it now, I'm like, I'm decently happy with it, but at the same time it's like, oh, there's so much that I would do differently with that now, but I learned so much from that like fast experience of you know, that stuff happens all the time, locations change, you know, time, especially when you work with like people who are on a tight schedule of, you know, and it really kind of whipped me into shape of, okay, you know, sometimes you have no time, and you have to be able to change things right on the fly, and be about it, and you know, make the best of it you can. But I would think like that's the most recent thing that comes to mind, that I was kind of like, I really wish I could have done that shoot differently.
So on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, what is the best compliment that you've received from a client after the shoot, after they saw the final product?
I think it was mostly like, the highest compliment is when clients will say you were wonderful to work with. You know, it was super easy. You're very chill. I think the best compliment I get from people when I work with models is you're not a creepy photographer, which is always like I guess it's a good thing to hear. You know.
That's awesome.
There are stereotypes that come along with every profession. You know, so I mean, that's the greatest compliment I get is you're not a creep. I'm like, cool. You know, thank you.
That's awesome. You're like, because I was thinking horrible things that whole time I was shooting you. I'm glad you didn't know.
Like, this guy's weird, man. Yeah, right.
We are going to start taking questions now. We're about halfway through here, so we'll start doing that. Want to remind everybody, the best question wins prize tonight. Some 5x7s by iShoot by Kyle LaMere. So first question tonight comes from Sam Anderson, who asks, I'm 13 and I'm really into graphic design. Do you have any tips for me?
Yes, I actually do, because I am a testament to how to screw up your design career. So what I did not do while I was going through college is I got way too scared to talk with other agencies and design firms, and I got scared to network when I was in college. I just thought, why would anyone want to talk to me? Why would anyone, I had this kind of low confidence level where I felt like design agencies and firms were just these like outer galaxies that I couldn't touch. And it really, to be perfectly honest, it really did hurt my design career, and kind of made me a little less passionate about design, is because I took a really, really, bad route. And what I would say to people is, when you're in high school, when you're in college and you're designing, like, network and talk to people as much as you can. Don't be afraid to talk to people who are higher than you. They're probably not going to yell at you, and they'll probably be excited that someone young, especially if you're 13 years old, that you're saying, cool, this kid's really into it, and I'm going to help him out. People aren't as scary as you think they are.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more on all of that. Sam, I would say to you, at that age, it's a difficult time growing up, right? Because everybody's worrying about being judged. Who are you hanging out with? What are you wearing? Why do you look so weird? All that, and a lot of people bottle all of that up, and they say, well, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z so that I don't get made fun of for this. And then if you get in a behavior pattern like that, you keep on cutting off all of the things that make you unique and different. And the more you worry about sticking out and have somebody criticizing you for that, the more you cut away, and eventually you're driving a beige Ford Taurus and you wear khaki pants every day, and you're very, very nice to anyone. You never say anything controversial. And guess what? That's not interesting. Now you're not an interesting person. So I don't say completely go the opposite and offend everyone who you walk into, but you've got to be conscious of where that level is, the choices you make, and so when you get in that little bottle, you don't want to reach out to anyone. So on your point, Kyle, definitely reach out to everyone that you can, network every time you can, and send emails to people that you love. As a young designer, just start sending emails until you get an answer. And a lot of people are really nice. They're going to reach back and give you support and give you advice.
Yep.
Second question, James Gray, sitting across the table from me. How did you become involved with Grant for Good, and what has that experience been like thus far? We were definitely going to get to this at some point. We had to.
Yeah. I'm repping my shout out to Firebelly right tonight.
First, give a little bit of history of Grant for Good, what that is for people who don't know.
Sure. Grant for Good is basically it's curated by Firebelly Foundation, Firebelly Design. Every year, Firebelly gives out a grant to a needy nonprofit where anyone can apply to, and the Grant for Good team picks and decides what they think is the best nonprofit that that needs help. And for one solid year, they get free a whole rebranding, logos, websites, help on marketing, throwing events, raising awareness, fundraisers, and now I was so kindly and honored and asked to join it this year, free photography for the year. And this year we are working with the Chicago Women's Health Center, which we're very, very, very excited about, and some awesome ladies over there. And so for the rest of this next year, we're going to be working on rebranding them and giving awareness out, because it's a very important nonprofit for women, and to get health care for women too.
Such an awesome idea, right? It's such an awesome occurrence. That we're seeing a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's because I've been more aware of the design community in the last couple of years because of what we're doing here. But it seems to me that it's a little bit more common now. You see a lot more people in the creative field reaching out and helping wherever they can. Whether it's creating a poster that calls attention to a disaster and they raise money for that disaster, or a Grant for Good where there's a local group that they find a way to help. Such an exciting thing, and just really I want to congratulate you and them for being part of that and reaching out and helping. So that's awesome. It's just really cool to see all those projects come to fruition. If you can shoot any Chicago celebrity right now, who would it be?
If anyone who knows me very well, the number one person that I have to shoot as far as Chicago celebrity, I'm a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan, and Billy Corgan is one of my biggest idols and inspirations, and he's on my hit list of people I have to shoot before I die. Absolutely.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You keep going that route, and you will make that connection and get that shoot.
I'm getting close. I'm very close.
I thought for sure it was going to be Devin Hester or something. I thought because we've done this. For a little while. Today.
Well, we haven't gotten to that. Yeah, it's actually a dream of mine. I'm not gonna lie. I would love to be the staff photographer for the Chicago Bears. I would stop doing everything I was doing right now, right here, if I could follow that team for the rest of my life and shoot them. I will say it here.
Oh,
that's
that is
it.
So cool. So once you get that offer, you don't have a choice. It's permanently recorded. It's going to be on the web. It's going to be documented. If you ever get that offer, you have to drop. Even if you're shooting like a bikini shoot somewhere, guess what? You're going to shoot for the Bears in Green Bay in negative 20-degree weather.
Absolutely. Sign me up, man. IshootRockstars shuts down the next day. It becomes IShootTheChicagoBears.com. You know what I mean? So.
That's cool, man. Any thoughts on the current shutout from the NFL right now and the stupid rule change that they made yesterday or today?
I'm very, very, very upset about this rule change. Everyone's calling it the Devin Hester rule. If anyone's been following my Twitter, they know I'm very, very, very upset about this new rule. And I was very excited to see Devin's response of him saying, "Hey, I'm just going to return 100-yard kicks now instead of 90-something yard kicks," which I think is great confidence and for him to have. All I have to say about that, as far as that is before Devin Hester, special teams was something completely different. He completely changed the game. He completely reinvented that position. I say pay the man $10 million a year just to stand back there and return kicks, because he made to the younger generation of kids who are like, I want to be the next Devin Hester. I want to be a special teams returner, and that's all I want to be, And I think a rule like this just kind of like squashes that kind of dream.
Can he ever be a number one receiver on a professional football team?
No.
Really? Hands
Save
down,
those legs for
you
the
didn't
return.
even hesitate.
No. No.
And that is
just
Bears
returns.
Chat,
You got
brought to you by DesignChat.
There it is. It's over. Yeah, there it is.
Next question. Mitch Smith wants to know, what suggestions or tips can you give the job seeker? What can be done to land the perfect job? Is there a perfect job is my question.
That's a really good question. Is there? That's kind of a question itself. Is there a perfect job? I honestly, at the end of the day, from what I do, it's just having confidence and I say this a lot and I use this word all the time, but just having the passion and really believing in what you're doing. And if you approach people that you think you're ready for, have self-awareness and know what you're worth out there, and know what your competition is or how you stack up against your competition, and just go for it. The most people can say is no, and at least at that point, instead of, sitting around wondering, oh, maybe I should have gone after that, or something, but I mean, Grant, I guess I'd give it up to you to answer your half on this one.
My thoughts on this are, the beginning of the question is flawed, because for me there is no perfect job. It doesn't matter what job you get. If it's overpaying you and you've got great hours, you're going to find something wrong with it. There's going to be a time where you're working at that job and you're going to be unhappy about something or another. So it's almost an unrealistic expectation to begin with. So for me, my first piece of advice is get that completely out of your head. you know, in life, you start making checklists about where eventually do I want to be, what are the things I want to have, you know, how comfortably do I want to live, who do I have to support in my family, and then you start making your checklists off of that, and like what type of job can I think or expect that I might get, you know, be really critical about all of those things and really study it. Don't For me, the biggest part about finding a job is not waiting for it to come for you, but really go out there and attack. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you do and how you want to make money, you know, I mean, think about it this way. If you're going to spend, you know, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the next 5 years of this job, think about the chunk of your life that that's going to take up, and then compare that to everything else that you get to do. That's a pretty serious chunk, right? You know, and once you see that, you can evaluate how important it is to you and how much effort you're going to put into getting that job, right? So for me, it's all about knowing what it means to you, and then your effort from that will make a lot of sense, right? Like I don't even think it's about the creative work. I mean, that stuff is all important if that's what your passion is. But I guess my advice is more for just the whole idea of getting a job, because it applies to so many different fields and so many different professions. So as far as the creative work, there's not a one project that you can do that's here. Go do that one thing and you're gonna get your favorite job. It doesn't exist. Just do the thing that you love and you'll get the job that you want. That's it.
Agree. It's good.
Let me remind the audience that the best question definitely gets a prize tonight, and video questions count times 2.
Come on.
Times 2, people. So get those video questions in.
Times 2.
Gary Holmes, a prolific design chatter, wants to know, Kyle, were you able to bring any attributes of graphic design into your photography business?
I like that question. That's really good. Yes, I say this a lot. Starting with a graphic design background and going through school and learning the fundamentals of design and you know, composition, repetition, proximity, all those things that are really, really important when you're composing an image, it absolutely translates into the photography world. And I think by, you know, learning the fundamentals of design and starting out as a graphic designer, as a photographer, when I'm working with design firms or agencies, I'm thinking like a graphic designer, because, you know, 95% of my images are going to end up in some sort of design, poster, editorial. So so I absolutely, when I'm doing a shoot, I honestly think like, okay, where's the type going to go in this image? You know, how should I compose this person? What would look interesting and cool? And it's graphic design has completely helped, you know, how I shoot and thinking like it. So when you do work with graphic designers, like I have an understanding of what they want, you know, and what would be cool to them to play with an image and use as a layout, instead of like, you know, here's an image, you know, that you can't do anything with. You got no real estate. So yeah, I constantly think about all that and composition and how things will lay out. I try to see it from a graphic designer's perspective of what the final product will look like.
We talk a lot on this show about how so many creative people today in the working and professional world are expected to wear a lot of hats. If you get hired to be a print designer, eventually they're going to ask you to make a website. They might ask you to shoot a photo. You know, they're going to ask you to do a lot of different things. And the people who are really versatile, the Swiss Army knife creative, are the most highly sought after people. Besides photography and design, are there any other creative avenues that have piqued your interest, or maybe are a hobby right now, or something you want to learn?
I mean, yeah, I think I agree. The more you know, the you know, the easier you get hired for things like that. But I think at the same time, if you're really serious about and you really have a vision for what you're doing, and if you do it really well, you know, I say stick to that. If you can be versatile enough, like I think for me, in the photography world, like I love shooting music, I love shooting fashion a ton, but I'll shoot like I like shooting anything and being in any sort of aspect. Like if I have a vision for it, I mean, you know, and a client comes to me, like absolutely I'll shoot it, you know, and I'll bring my vision to that. And I think in the photography world it helps me because it's like I just don't shoot bands, I just don't shoot fashion, you know. It's like I can, you know, shoot a bunch of other things too. For me, like, yeah, you know, it's as great as the technology's become. You know, for me, tampering with video a lot more has become so much more accessible. You know, the cameras that that photographers use now are the cameras that videographers and people are using now, and so the learning curve is much easier. So like I can take my 5D and then go get the Mark II, and it's all the same things. It's all the same settings, but now I just hit a record button, and then after that, it just comes down to lighting and composition and how you edit it, you know. So I think for one thing, I definitely I did like my first music video last year, and got really energized by doing the whole video thing, and it's how time consuming and crazy it is, and that's something I'm going to explore more of, doing more more fashion lookbook videos, things like that. Just more kind of, conceptual type stuff, but that's kind of something I'm working on now, but not really, displaying anything right now until I feel like I have something that's kind of worth showing.
If Charlie Sheen knocked on your door tonight and said, I need a new publicity photo, and I need that photo to paint me in a positive rock star light, what would you do for him?
Wow. Okay. I think usually the first thing that I do, because I'm someone that's like I'm really, really, really connected to my childhood. I was very fortunate. I had an awesome childhood, and I have very, very childlike tendencies. I love, the idea of ignorance, of children, and so like to me, I would kind of take things a step back, and it would kind of be like more of a conversation of finding something that's a little bit more innocent within that person, and then developing an idea from that. Like nothing like too specific comes to mind right now, but I think that's kind of an approach I like to take when I want to get to the core of people. I like to try like little kind of like quirky, sensitive things that they have either from their past or something goofy about them that you can kind of exploit to show them in a new light.
I think I saw somebody took a screen capture from Ferris Bueller, where he was sitting in the police station and he was talking to Ferris Bueller's sister, and he's got that all drugged out look and his eyes are saggy, and they just put a simple caption that said, "Came true." But he had this youthful energy about him then that was so
right.
so, I don't know, catchy, if you will. It made a lot of sense. It'd be fun to see, like, if he did a reproduction of that photo today. Awesome,
right,
brilliant.
Yeah,
so much fun.
Things like that, capturing the innocence, before they were corrupted, sort of thing, But I think that's that's something I definitely like to do. Is just try to find something that has innocence to it.
We started a little bit late tonight, so we'll probably run over at 9 o'clock. We've still got a handful of questions to get to, and the question where Kyle turns the tables and asks the questions of you guys. So we're going to do a little bit of a speed round really quick through these last few questions. If you have a question, get it in. You're going to win some prints. If it's awesome, video questions count times 2. I haven't seen one video question tonight. I'm disappointed. Mitch Smith wants to know, how do you continue the passion after an exhausting day on the job?
Oh, that's good. Having the thing that I've had that before, where I'll have like 12, 13, 14-hour shoots, and at the end of the day you're just like, oh wow, like you just feel like you just ran right into a brick wall like 90 miles an hour. But the thing at the end of the day always gets me is when I start putting those photos in, and like I get in the Lightroom and I actually start taking, because a lot of times I'll just shoot, I'll kind of take a look at what I'm getting, but I'm very, I like to move around a lot, and get a lot of things, but like kind of having that aha moment when you start looking at those images and you're just like, whoa, 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 you know, I have something, and then like that second wind just kind of hits you, and then you just get this excitement to like, you know, all right, I want to start editing these now. I can't wait to get these out there. I can't wait to show people, you know, and share it with everyone, and it really keeps you moving to like kind of have those moments of you know, the you know, the aha moments of excitement. It's like, ooh, that's awesome.
Peter
92.
Gibson wants to know, accomplishing what you have now, what are your future plans or goals?
Yeah, well, right now I want to continue, reaching out, and what I'm doing right now is trying to reach out to the people that I've, like rock stars or celebrities or anything like that. Is I'm at this point where I'm trying to, reach out to the people that I've looked up to for years, and trying to, connect with them, and offer them something, to be able to offer a visual to them, and have, kind of my chance and my turn to get a chance to visualize that person. As far as like future plans, like I'm really into like another passion of mine, I'm really into social documentation and having side projects like that, and I'm really into I'm really into the community, and the, the charity side of things, and helping people out, and using this tool as photography to send a message. And I hope, 5-10 years from now, I think about that a lot. Like I would love to be someone that's traveling around the world, maybe as a photojournalist, and covering things that matter, and covering things that can that will affect people, and get a response from people, in a positive way, in order to kind of help and change the world as best as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. We've got a video question ready here that we're going to pop on. Herson Rodriguez. Let's make sure his video is working. Herson, hey, welcome back.
How's it going? Thank you. How are you?
So what's your question?
My question is, how did you know? How did you say, well, you know what? I'm just going to make this transition and become a photographer? Because I know a lot of graphic designers do photography. But how did you just have the confidence to say, I'm just going to do photography, and do that more than graphic design?
Right. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I think it kind of like, for me, it came down to I just kind of started shooting around for myself as a graphic designer. Because I wanted to kind of have my own images. I wanted to design around the own images I was taking. And it was just kind of one of those things that just snowballed, where I just started shooting for friends and friends' bands, and then just kind of getting asked to do it a little bit more. And I think at that point, the passion just kind of took over. And I think just kind of personally on my end of things, I just felt like I didn't have anything really to offer the design world, that I completely felt was unique. And really had my own voice to it, and I just kind of went with it, and just got into so many different types of things within photography, and from there it just kind of snowballed into one other thing, and next thing you know, it was just like, okay, well, I had to make a decision, stick with design, or really follow this down. It's a very, very challenging career, but it's super, it's great, it's fun, and it can be very rewarding.
Herson, thank you for asking a question. Yours counts
Awesome.
×2, man. ×2. You got good chances.
×2.
Thanks,
Yeah,
bud.
yeah.
Awesome. Cool. We've got 4 more questions. We're going to close it out there, and then we'll pick the winner. But first, we'll turn the tables and have you ask a question. Jose Alide wants to know, can you share a bit about your biggest aids in establishing your business in terms of gear preferences, business tools, etc.?
Yeah, I basically, as far as like gear goes, I pretty much operate only with 2 cameras, and I say this to everyone. My favorite camera that I use right now is still my old little Rebel, with my Sigma 30mm lens on it. I use it for everything. It's seriously one of my favorite cameras, and I hope I have it till the day I die, and I hope it never breaks, because I will just buy another one and keep using it. And then other than that, like for studio stuff, I just stick to like the 5D. and kind of just have your basic assortment of lenses, like your portrait 85, your zoom lens and the wide angle, and I'm a huge Alien Bees fan. I pretty much, for right now, only use Alien Bees because of the affordability of it and the professional quality that you really can get out of it, and a lot of amateurs to professionals really stick to it. And I'm a huge fan with that. So I highly recommend, if you're getting into photography and want to get into strobing and lighting and stuff like that, buy Alien Bees stuff, and because their customer service is amazing. That just turned into a commercial for Alien Bees, by the way.
This week, DesignChat is brought to you by Alien Bees.
Yay! And then I transitioned into a Lightroom guy. I love Lightroom. I finally converted, and it's my favorite thing.
Awesome. Gary Holmes wants to know, Kyle, your thoughts on Instagram, Hipstamatic apps. Do they devalue photography?
I like that. No, I don't think anything like that really devalues photography. I think it's cool. I don't have an iPhone personally. I've never had one. I've never been into iPhones really. But I think they're cool. They're they do their thing. They're instant. They give you that instant look and quality and stuff. And I know there's been things where people have shot with an iPhone and it's end up on the cover of Time magazine or something like that. But I don't think we're gonna. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think we're going to see a day where you're using your phone and your camera as one, unit and being hired for a huge gig to just use your iPhone. So like you're snapping off, taking pictures, then oh wait, you got a phone call or someone's texting you, or you got to finish your level in Angry Birds and then get back to the shoot. But I think I think they're cool. I think they're cool. I've never really gotten into them, but I don't think they really devalue anything. They are what they are. It's a great camera and a good phone.
Last couple questions. Do you run on Rockstar energy drinks? What really gets you motivated to be constantly successful?
I can't stand Red Bull, Monster, all that stuff. No good. I'm purely coffee all the way. That's it.
Caffeine is your drug.
Yeah, no, that caffeine is awesome. Yes, love it.
Well, we've come to the point where we turn the tables.
No Starbucks. No Starbucks. I saw that. Starbucks.
Kyle is now going to ask a question of the audience. You can answer in two ways. You can either just chat, put it in the chat room, or if you think your answer is really good, submit it as a question, and we'll pop it up in text on the screen like we've been doing with the questions. So, Kyle, LaMere, what is your question of the design community?
Yeah, you can ask anyone anything. Well, I could ask one or two questions. What's everyone watching on Netflix these days? Or the real question I think I would probably ask is, what's everyone's main goal this year? If you're a designer, if you're a photographer, what do you mainly want to accomplish this year in your career?
Mitch Smith and
what's the one thing? If you had to choose one thing,
says Futurama on Netflix. Gary Holmes says Entourage.
Nice.
We've got a bunch of documentaries of Helvetica, Lemonade, the movie, Objectified. Gary, by the way, if anybody has a contact with Gary Hustwit, who's the director of those amazing movies, please email me. I'm hoopajoop@gmail.com. I definitely want Gary Hustwit on here sometime. That's my goal. How about we make that my goal for the year? I want to get Gary Hustwit on DesignChat. Parker Gibson says, I would like to grow my network, such as the number of followers on my Twitter account. Are followers on Twitter accounts and that sort of deal, is that important, do you think?
I don't really hound people to follow me if they want to. I mean, I say a lot of stupid stuff on Twitter a lot of time because I mix the business with personal, which I think is a good thing because I don't want to just. I think Twitter can be used for a lot of great things. I don't think people should be afraid to use Twitter to show off their work if they want to do stuff like without having to be like passive about it. If you want to show something off, it's a great platform to it. But if you're using it for business, I like the idea of having a little personality in your Twitter too, knowing that someone is human, someone does, you know, like other things than just showing off photos or showing off their designs. And instead of like, I don't have 5 separate Twitter accounts, I just have the one. And a lot of times you'll hear me talking about my distaste for whatever the Bears are doing, or, you know, what movie I can't wait to see, you know.
Hey, we're gonna do a little experiment here. As this is the moment that everyone's gonna remember where we actually made Gary Hustwit come on DesignChat. I want everybody in the chat room who's got a Twitter account right now to tweet at Gary. I think it's at Gary _Hustwit. To that we want him on DesignChat. So let's get as many people tweeting about it as possible, and use the hashtag DesignChat, please. That would be awesome. Let's make it a community effort, because really it's not, for me, this show is not about me. This show is about connecting with design and creative community. And so that means there's a lot of power in your guys' hands to make things like this happen. So please, please, please make that happen. Design, or at Gary _Hustwit, HUSTWIT. Please do that. That would be awesome. We've got some more answers in here coming from Mitch Smith, who says in this year he wants to get a great job that doesn't leave me discouraged daily. Yeah, man, that's toxic. A bad job can really change your personality and the rest of affect your personal life. Have you experienced that at all, Kyle?
Yeah. The job I was working at before I took on photography freelance. I was discouraged all the time. Like, sometimes days felt like years. I felt like I was never going to get out of it or have an opportunity to leave. And like one of my biggest mentors, Miss Dawn Hancock, pretty much just sat me down and said, "Quit your job." And that's all she said, and that was it. so I listened.
Granted,
and just leave, you know, and that's it. So you know, you're gonna have that, but there's gonna be days where you're gonna be down. I have that too with what I do. Like, I don't have the perfect lifestyle right now. I have to like work harder than I've ever had to work, you know, because I'm in control of like my own finances now. I have to get clients, and I have to talk to people left and right, and I have to make sure, you know, I'm taking care of myself. It doesn't get any easier than it was. It's 10 times harder than it was before, but it's a great learning and growing experience. And it definitely, you know, it whips you into shape right away. You know, you definitely get slapped with the reality stick.
Gary Holmes says, my goal this year is to do more projects for myself. Good luck with that, Gary. I hope they're awesome and bring you fame and fortune. Jose Alide says he wants to establish his own aesthetic. Gear and skill sets are cool, but I want to be as original as possibly.
I say that instead of being original, be as honest as possible.
That's a good point. Yeah, because if you're striving for just being different, well, good luck with that. There's a lot of people doing, you know, really amazing stuff out there, and it seems like everything's been done, and you know, it's really hard to do. So yeah, be honest with yourself, and something interesting will come out of that. That's great. That's great advice. Definitely, Kyle. All right, so we're at the end of the chat. Kyle, we got to pick a winner here. The best question: who's going to get a set of your fantastic prints? Bang bang!
Oh, man.
Your 5x7s.
Yes.
So there were a lot of good ones tonight. There was one video question. Count a double.
There was a video question. What was you know what? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to be total bias on this, but I gotta give it up to someone who actually put a video in, man. So
cool. That is your right. That is your total right.
I think we have to.
Herson Rodriguez, it is. He's the man. Thanks again for coming on, Herson.
And Herson, I will send that out first thing in the mail tomorrow.
Cool. That does it for tonight. Next week we're talking to Von Glitchka. Look him up. I believe it's glitchkastudios.com. He's an amazing designer and logo designer, and he's written a book about vector art that's awesome. He is fantastic. You guys are going to love him. But tonight, thank you, Kyle, LaMere, for coming on. It was a great discussion, great insight in your transition from the design world to the photography world. And really, you're just doing great stuff. The Grant for Good project.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the results out of that. That's great that you're involved in that. And thank you, just in general, for hanging out.